There's a lot of bees and there's a lot of seeds. Welcome to my garden. This amazing flower right here is an allium, and it's a leek, and it is one of these things that you just got to let go to seed in the garden, because isn't that the most beautiful thing? And when it warms up here, we end up having bees, just crazy, because it's kind of cool this morning. And when the sun starts to come up, the bees are all over this. And this is an excellent pollinator plant. And then when we just leave this, in each one of these little individual flowers, you'll see a little black spot in it, and that's its seed. And that's when we'll cut this off and we'll put this in a bag so that we can harvest the seed for planting later on in the fall. But we also leave some of these, maybe like the littler ones, for flower arrangements that we like to cut in the house. They do have a little oniony smell, but it goes away within a half an hour or so. So they're a great little centerpiece, cut flower or in the garden. This is cilantro, and this is another one that the bees love, and so we always let quite a bit of this go to seed as well. And the little white flowers on it are almost gone, and this is where maybe I would pull out some of these plants that go to seed. But if you look here, all of these little seeds are starting to turn brown. And this is when we harvest this, and this is our coriander. So our spiced coriander that we have in the kitchen. And so the time that we do this is now. And I'll just come down and you can pull the whole plant up actually, or you can cut it, because it's done producing. So we were really lucky to get the greens, the leafy greens off of it early in the season. And then once we had a warm day, it just sprouted up. We got the flowers for pollination. And now we get all of these wonderful, luscious seeds of coriander. So I'll just tie this with a string and I'll hang it in the kitchen. And then just in a couple of days, these will dry, and then I can kind of just thrash it a little bit inside of a bag. I can beat the bag, or I can just kind of work them off, and then we'll have all of these seeds. And then there'll be some chaff left over, and you could just blow that right off. So that's coriander. This is a must-have for the garden. This is bee balm, monarda. It belongs to the mint family, and this is excellent for tea. So we harvest a lot of this, and we actually infuse these flowers just in some honey. We'll just pick them fresh like this, and then just dunk them down into the honey so that we have that for winter use. But the bees and the butterflies really love this. So there again, it's another one of those plants that are so useful for bees, butterflies, and us. Oh, here's fennel, and this is something that we've been harvesting all through the springtime. It has the wonderful bulb on it, and we'll just harvest and harvest and harvest, and it just kind of regrows and regrows, and it gets smaller with the season as far as the bulb goes, but it's just wanting to go to seed. And so you can see here it has these beautiful yellow flowers, and this is what the bees are so attracted to. They've got a lot of pollen on it, and so we were able to harvest earlier in the spring the bulbs for us, and now we've let it go to seed so that the bees can take advantage of it. But the really cool thing about fennel is if we let it keep going, the swallowtails will come in and they'll lay their eggs on this, and the larvae will feed off of this before they move on. And so it's good for the bees, it's good for the butterflies, and then we end up with the fennel seed off of it that we can use in the kitchen, again, as another spice. So this is just a wonderful pollinator friendly plant to have in your garden. Well, you probably know by now that I love to let things go to seed. And this is part of the reason why, is the beauty. They're just beautiful. So this is carrot, and we've got all different stages of carrot here. We've got ones that are just starting to open up. We've got some that the seeds are just starting to come on. And so when you save seed for your area, they adapt better when you replant them the following season. And so you always end up with a better crop. They're just used to your area. So it's always a good idea to save seed. And carrot will cross-pollinate with other things in the carrot family, but we don't have any other things that are blooming right now that are in the carrot family. So it's totally fine to save seed off of these guys, but they're excellent for cut flowers. And every week we like to come out in the garden and just have a new arrangement of flowers to put in the kitchen in a vase. And so they're so pretty like that. And even at any stage. So I'll cut some and then I'll leave the rest for getting seed off of it. Even that would be really pretty, just in a cut arrangement, wouldn't it? It's just beautiful. So there again, here's another pollinator-friendly plant to let go to seed and let the bees just hang out here all day long. Here's bachelor button. This has lived in this spot, or at least reseeded in this spot, for 14 years now. We gave a little packet of wildflower seeds to people who came to my daughter's wedding as a thank you gift. And I took one of those packets and sprinkled it here, and it's reseeded every year since. And so this is kind of precious to me. Bachelor button can be used as a tea. You can harvest these flowers off of it. You can put this in food. They're totally edible. We actually take these little flowers and we'll sprinkle it off the top of one of our one time a year chocolate dessert that we indulge in, which is kind of fun. They come in different colors, in pinks, and then this almost black purple color, the blues and the light blues and the dark blues. And so what's really neat though is you come out in the morning and you can just sit here and watch this, because while these are almost spent, this is when the finches like them. They'll drop seed here, but the finches will be all over this. And so it gives them some food when they so need it anymore. Here's mullen. The leaves are so soft, and it's kind of a pretty plant to have in the garden. It's just starting to bloom, and the bees like the pollen that it offers. And this plant produces seed like nothing else that I know. Millions of seeds. So if you don't want the seeds to be all over in your garden, then you'll need to cut it once the flowers have all opened, before the whole thing is spent. But it has a lot of medicinal benefits, leaves, flowers, even the roots, and it's kind of cool looking in the garden. Here's dill, famous for dill pickles. Dill is a weed in our garden, but it's a welcomed weed because we get to use the leaves when it's young, and then as it's older, you can guess it's pollinator friendly, and then we can use these tops when we make dill pickles, and we can just put the whole thing in along with the leaf, and you can just shove this down in the side, and this is really the perfect time to be using them for that. So the leaves are so beneficial for us, the flowers for us and the bees. And if you'll notice, it looks a lot like the fennel back here, but they have a very distinctive aroma and taste, so it's pretty easy to tell them apart. But there's dill. Okay, here we are with calendula, and as you can see, we've got a lot of seed heads on this. Calendula is one of those plants that I would say is a must-have for any garden. It's a great companion plant for most everything. It's such a highly regarded medicinal plant as well. You can make infused oils and teas. You can sprinkle the petals on top of your salads, and then it just wants to reproduce so bad all the time. And if you're not constantly picking these flower heads off, as I left this for a week, and here we are. We've got seed heads all over. So the plant looks not as pretty as it did. But this is good too, because we can collect all of this seed, and a lot of times I'll just take the seed and I'll sprinkle it right back down. Or we can come in here and we can take off all of these flowers and we can dry them, and you use the whole part of the flower, but you don't want them when they're spent because their medicinal qualities are gone. So we'll just go through and harvest all of these, and then I'll come through here and I'll actually cut this down a little bit so that it can regrow. If I let this go too much more though, it's just going to put so much of its energy into seed that it's going to die and wither. So I can kind of correct my non-harvesting by coming through and knocking down quite low all of these spent seed heads. And I usually just throw them back down in there unless I want to collect seed. And then I'll pick the more dry seeds, and then I'll just go ahead and continue to dry them and then knock the seeds out so I can save them to share with friends or to package up. But calendulas, I would say one of my favorite herbs that are in the garden and a must-have. As you can tell by now, I love saving seed, and this is parsnip, and of course I love saving seed off of it because parsnip seed, when you save it yourself, you're almost ensuring a really good crop, because parsnip seed doesn't last that long. It really lasts for only 6 months to a year, and then its germination rate goes down considerably. So it's super simple to save the seed off of parsnip. When the tops start to develop, you get this little round, flat seed, and they're super simple to harvest at that point. They start to dry, and then you can just shake it off into your hand, and you'll have a handful of just beautiful seed. And you can continue to dry it inside, or sometimes it just drops itself and reseeds itself, which is kind of what I do. I just kind of let it drop, but I do always save some so that I can have it in my seed bank. Parsnip is also one of those beautiful umbule flowers, and it's an excellent pollinator-friendly plant too. Okay, this is our last stop this morning. The sun's starting to come up and it's starting to get warm, and you can see the activity of bees and other little insects starting to come in all over in the garden now. And so this is our pretty yarrow here, Achillea mellifolium, and this is one of those plants that I would say is another one of those must-haves for the garden. So not only for the pollinators, for us too, it has really good medicinal benefits. So you use the flower, the leaves, the stem, you can even use the root on this. And so it's, one plant is usually enough, but we've got some other, whites and the pastels, and they're just pretty to have in here. And of course, there's so many bees and butterflies that hang out on yarrow, and they make an excellent cut flower too. So this is yarrow. Kind of cut some of these brighter pinks for our flower arrangement. So thanks for coming along with us on our pollinator garden journey this morning. Bye.